Hi there. Have you ever stopped to think of how you use your money? How you spend every dollar, every cent that you make? Well, if you haven't, it's about time that you start. Or if you're already doing that, then perhaps it's a good time to actually start looking at it again, do some revision, and to see whether or not you are on the best path. And today, what we're going to be doing is looking at proper, practical financial planning for this year 2025. In other words, what we want to do today is stay within our budget and to build a stable financial future. It therefore means that we must begin with setting a budget. Like I said at the start, if you already have one, then great. It's time now to revise it and make the necessary changes so that it can be the best budget ever for this period of your life. And if you have never done a budget, then obviously you must start by creating a budget. Why is financial planning important? Now listen, it is essential for managing your income, controlling your expenses, and managing debt. Remember, it's not how much we earn as much as how what we do with the money that we earn, how we spend it, how we invest it, and to be able to do so in a controlled way. Financial planning also helps to us to allocate resources in an effective way, and we can break it down into things that are necessities, savings and investment, and discretionary spending. What I always like to say is begin with the end in mind. Start thinking of what is it you want to achieve? What is it you want to buy? What is it you want to own? What is it you want to achieve that money can buy? What are the places you want to go for vacation? What are the things you want to do for your family? What kind of career is it that you want to build? What is it you want for your children, your family, all the people that are important in your life? You have to start with the end in mind. And so then, our next question becomes is, do you have a budget? Do you, when you hear the word budget, what comes to mind? Do you have one for your personal, when you hear the word budget, what comes to mind? Have you ever done one for yourself or your business? Well, today, what we're going to be looking at is practical financial planning for 2025. In other words, we're going to learn today how to stay within our budget and to build a stable financial future. Now, when we think of a stable financial future and we speak of budget, the first thing that comes to mind is that we must have a budget. So if you have never done one, then this is a great time for you to start doing one. And if you already are into the habit of doing budgets for yourself, then it is also a good time to revise the budget that you have and to see whether or not you might need to make a few changes. So why is it important that we do financial planning for our lives? If we're not careful, we will earn money and we will spend money, and we might spend everything that we earn, and we may find ourselves living from paycheck to paycheck, day after day, year after year, and 5, 10, 20 years from now, we're still at the same place. Now, that is not an exciting way to live our lives. And so it is so important that we understand and we engage in planning our finances for a better future. This is really more or less can be broken down into very simple terms. In income versus expenditure. In other words, how much is it that you earn versus how much it is that you're spending. So when we think of financial planning, we think of things like controlling expenses, managing debt, and all these must be linked to the amount of money that we earn on a weekly, monthly, annual basis. Now, again, when we look at budgeting, it allows us to properly allocate our resources so that we understand what are the necessities, how much should we be saving or investing, and also discretionary spending. What I like to say is that we must always start with the end in mind. What do I mean by this? Start by thinking of the life you want to have when you're older. Start also with thinking about your career. What kind of career is it that you want to build? What is it you want for your family? What kind of vacations you want to take? What kind of house or how many houses you want to have? What is it you want to do for your community? Think of all these things, and anything that comes to your mind, write it down. So this is just the beginning of getting into the mood or the rhythm of planning your finances. Now, let's start with assessing your current situation. How much are you earning now? You gotta write that down. Start making a list of your expenses so you can really get to understand where the money is going. It is also great if we can create categories to track the different areas that we're spending our money. We start with what? Our needs. What are the things that we must have? Things like food. We have to eat food. We have to sleep somewhere. We have to wear clothes. So start writing down the needs. What are the things that I must have? Then the second category that you want to look at is your wants. What are the things that I want to have, but they are not needs? In other words, we have the discretion to make a decision here. Wants could be, how many times do I go out for dinner? How many times do I go to the movies? How many times do I go to the hairdresser? How many times do I go to a party to have a drink? Things like that. And very important, how much am I saving? How much should I be saving? And how much do I want to save? Now, when we have done this, we will make a list of the things, we put the amount of money beside it, and we get a grand total. Then we look at our earnings. And don't be surprised if sometimes the list of expenses can exceed the income that we earn. And so when this happens, we must start to look at, am I overspending in any of these categories? And even if your balance was negative or not negative, you still might be overspending in some areas. And so look at how much you spend each month in every category and start thinking, is it possible that I may be able to reduce some of the money that I spend on wants and even on needs? Sometimes we can do things a different way, and by doing so, we can have extra money at the end of the month. Think about, what if you were to live to be 100 years old? What kind of life would you want to live then? Would you want to be able to have good passive income, money coming in without you having to go and work? Because at 100 years old, 90 years old, you really are not want to be the kind of person who have to be thinking of, my gosh, I need to earn money in order to survive. And so therefore, if we think of living to 100, and we don't know for sure we're going to get there, but what if you get there? What if you live to be 100 years old? What then? You want to be sure that you're planning that far ahead, and the planning must begin now. Now, I want to take a look at debts. I mean, in this life, almost every single human being at some point in time will have a debt. Some of us have more than one debt. And it is important that we know what we are going to do with the money when we borrow it, whether we use a credit card. Yes, a credit card is a debt, it's a loan that you take. What if we borrow from the bank? What are we going to use that money to do? Sometimes some of these debts, the banks nowadays will offer you unsecured loans. And they will send you a letter in the mail and say, well, you can get $1 million, you can get a certain amount of money to borrow without putting up any security. These debts usually tend to have a higher rate of interest. So be careful of that. Now, let's take a look at your credit cards. When you're using the credit cards, it feels like you're not spending any money until the credit card statement comes. And if you don't pay that credit card off on time, by the due date, and pay it off in full, you're going to be paying a very high interest rate. credit cards tend to have the highest interest rates of all. So only use your credit card for things that you know you can pay for. Don't use it to buy things that you can't pay for by the due date. In other words, always be thinking, how much am I earning? How much can I afford to spend? Now, if you are currently, based on your situation, have high debts and several debts to deal with, then my recommendation to you is that you start paying off the highest interest debts first. Once you pay those off, then you start focusing on the second highest interest rate, and you keep doing that until you pay them off in full, and you're at a stage where you can manage your debts easily without having to pay a high interest rate on anything at all. So make sure that you assess your situation before you go out and to borrow money. Now let's talk about creating a budget. Now the budget must be realistic, and for each person it's going to be different, because we earn different levels of income, and our situation are also different. For many of us, we may have some things already in place, like maybe already bought a home, maybe already buy a car, maybe we have several different streams of income. And another person, maybe you just started working, you haven't purchased any of these things as yet. And so don't compare with another person, create your own budget. But generally, what we try to do is say, apply the 50-30-20 rule. What does this mean? Look at your needs. Can 50% of your income cover your needs? For some people, 50% can do it. For some, it requires more, and some it is less. This all depends on your level of income. Like I said earlier, some persons are earning really high income, some persons not so high. 30% for wants. Like I said earlier, wants could be those things: going to the hairdresser, going out to parties, going to on vacations. Many things out there that we do that are not necessities. So if we really want to be tight with our budget, this is where we have the discretion. This is where we have better control. Some of these things we can cut down on the frequency with which we do them, not necessarily to cut them out totally, although you could if you want. And then finally, 20% for savings or debt repayment. Ideally, you want to get to a stage where you can put aside 30% of your money for savings or investment. That is after you pay your debt down. So if you have a lot of high interest debts now, then use that money to pay down the debts first, get rid of those high interest, and then you start to put aside that same money into that savings account, and then from savings to investment. Remember, you must always think of your income and ensure that at no time your expenditures, the amount of money you spend, are higher than the amount of money that you are earning. Remember again, to savings, you put your money in the bank, the interest rate is very low, but you have to move it from savings into an investment instrument that can give you higher return, higher yield on the investment, on the money that you have. And there are many instruments out there now. There are stocks and bonds and many other things going on. Speak to someone who is certified and experienced, a professional in this field. Do not take advice from persons who are not trained, who are not professionals, because quite often you may lose your money. So always seek to invest with entities that are reputable and have the track record to show. Now let's talk about the power of compound effect, and this is why it is important to be consistent with the investments, with the savings, and with everything that you do. So if you were to invest $20,000 on a monthly basis and you're earning 10% over a 10-year period, this will amount to over $4 million, $4,131.40. Now, why is this important? Let's think about you having a child. You have a baby that is born now. That child will have to go to university by the time they reach the age of 16, 17, 18, somewhere around about there. And that child will be in university for 3, 4, 5 years, depending on what it is that they're studying. If in 10 years you could reach $4 million by just saving $20,000 at 10%, what if you could put this into something that yields a higher interest rate? And what if you could do this for 20 years? Then by the time that child is ready for university, you have enough money invested there for that child, so you don't have to worry about how to get that child to university. But it doesn't have to be that. It could be your saving to buy a house. It could be your saving or investing that money to do something else. Whatever it is, you put a percentage of your money aside. Never put just a flat figure. Think of a percentage, because as your income increases, then what you do, you actually will have more money invested because you're working with a percentage. So if your income is $200,000 and you put aside 10%, that's $20,000. What if your income increases to $250,000? All of a sudden, you're putting aside 10% of that, which now becomes $25,000. So always work with an investment. Now, one of the things you may want to look at also is how you use your time. There can be no real good management of money that is not aligned to good management of your time. Time is a perishable commodity. It is the most expensive one if we waste it. So you gotta think of your 24 hours. What is it that you do with it? Use it wisely. Think of how many hours do you sleep? How many hours do you spend on your 9 to 5? How many hours for family time? Budget your time and set aside at least 1 hour per day that you invest into your knowledge, improving your knowledge base, and doing something that can earn you a second or another stream of revenue. Because in many cases, what persons do, what they earn is pretty much they spend everything, or sometimes it is not even enough to cover everything. And so therefore, creating a second stream of income can be the answer that will help you to become financially free. So you can freelance depending on the field you're in. You can look at selling items that you don't need anymore. You can look at the hobbies that you have. All of these can become income streams for you. You can look at many different things that you can do in addition to your current income stream, your 9 to 5 or whatever it is that you do that can earn you extra money. Now you look at the time you spend on activities that are not productive. What are some of these things? How much time do you spend on your phone? Browsing and scrolling. I don't know you, but maybe you spend an hour, 2 hours, I don't know. But you take a look at it and make sure you make the adjustments that you can use some of those screen time to do something more productive. How much time do you spend watching the TV? This is another story. If you don't cut down on TV time, if you're spending too much time over there, then you might find yourself not being as productive as you should be. Some things you can consider too for extra income: online sales, that is quite lucrative nowadays if done right, affiliate marketing or network marketing. So these are just some ideas for you. You can choose based on your situation. What is it you want? Some persons start their backyard garden, and by so doing they're saving money and eating healthier. And some persons, the backyard garden produces so much that it can actually help them to earn extra income because they can sell some of it. So like I said earlier, if you have high interest debt, focus on getting those paid off first. Now, it is important for your savings that you automate this. Otherwise, you may find yourself using up all the money. So set up something with your bank that the minute your salary or whatever it is you earn goes into your bank account, that portion is taken out and transferred immediately to another account. So all the commercial banks offer this service. Track your progress, and as you go along on a monthly basis, you may need to make some adjustments. Don't expect that at the start you're going to be perfect at this thing. So you start at the end of month 1, you look at it, you may need to change a few things until you get the right balance, income versus expenditure. Cut out waste. Look at how you use energy. A simple one is when you iron your clothes. If you iron a shirt every day, you burn more electricity. Set a time, iron everything one time for the week, and if you do that, your electricity cost goes down. Turn off lights when you're not using them. Little things like those, as simple as they might be, they can add up over time to becoming something significant. Look at the food that you have. Don't waste it. If you eat, you have leftovers, put it in the refrigerator, heat it up, use it again tomorrow. Another way of saving money and cutting down on expenses and increasing savings is prepare your own meals. Eat out less. When we prepare our own meals, it is healthier, more balanced, and less costly. When we eat out, it is usually going to cost us more than what we prepare ourselves. So eat out only once in a while and not on a regular basis. So having gone through all of this, let me ask you a couple more questions. What is it you're going to do now? Think of one action you will take. Type it in the chat and let me know. Share one action. Just think of one thing. For you, maybe you're going to start by doing a budget. Maybe you're going to start by just making a list of the things you spend money on now. See if you can get a grip on your finances, on your expenses. So you may one thing you may want to start with now. Perhaps you may also want to start looking at starting a saving plan, or try to save 10% more of what you're saving right now. Whatever it is for you, the key thing is to take an action. Take an action based on what you learned today from watching this video. Now, it doesn't matter how small you start. Like I said earlier, everyone have a different scenario. For some persons, they might start by saving 50% of their money. For some persons, they can only start with 5%. We all have different situations, or circumstances are different. So just start the way you start. What is important? It's important that you start, and it's also important that you stay consistent. Whatever it is you decide to save or spend on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, stay consistent with it. Make sure that you have the commitment and the discipline towards it. You got to take that first step towards your financial health now, because what we want ultimately is financial freedom. If we don't have financial freedom, we will struggle for the rest of our lives. We must always be thinking, like I said, with the end in mind. If you live to be 100, what kind of life do you want to live? Think about that. Think about what you want for your family. Do you want them to enjoy vacation in different places? What's on your bucket list? Think about your community. What kind of charity you want to support? What kind of community? How do you want to enhance it? What's the condition there now? Is there something that you feel passionate about? What about your health? What is it you want to do with that? Because all of these things, your time management, your financial management, are also of equal importance is your health. So you got to think about that one too. Now, I want to share with you something. There are several different types of resources out there that could very well help you with this. Now, there are many books. I'm going to recommend some. They're on the screen right now. The Richest Man in Babylon, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Billionaire in Training, The Wealth Coach. There's a Facebook group that you could join also by Action Coach. We build successful business. All these are areas that you could pursue to improve your knowledge base. You don't have to read all these books one time. The first one I recommend that you get is The Richest Man in Babylon. It's a very small book. You could read that like in one night. Then from there you could go to Think and Grow Rich. But you choose. I'm giving you these as suggestions. I bought these books myself and I read them and they have helped me tremendously. I'm pretty sure they will help you too. I don't know these people. The only person on this list I've met before is Brad Sugars. All the others, I only read about them. But these books can change your life. And I want to close for you today with a couple quotes. One is from Brad Sugars, the CEO and founder of Action Coach. Words can inspire, thoughts can provoke, but only actions can take us closer to our dreams. Think about it. You might be inspired from this video or other videos that you watch. You might get inspiration from the books that you read. You might be thinking of great things, big dreams. But the only thing that can get us to move closer to achieving the things that we want is the actions that we take, and the actions that we take on a daily basis. Another good quote that I'll end with this one is from Mark Hughes, the founder of Herbalife. He said, "Your success is only limited to your own imagination and hard work." Think about it. If everything like this is our success is based on our own imagination and hard work, then it means that every single one of us can achieve any level of success that we desire, provided that we are willing to dream, we're willing to learn, we're willing to plan, and we're willing to take the actions that we need to take. So again, thank you for listening to this video today. I do hope that you learned something from it that can push you further and closer towards the dream that you want to achieve. And I wish for you all that you will achieve financial freedom in the years to come.